Hey everyone, today we're going to learn about different ways that I script and prep scripts for narration, for voiceovers, and other things like that. Now, most of what I do is the voiceovers for these tutorial videos or for Pluralsight or for Udemy and things like that, but I'm going to share some of my lessons learned that will hopefully help you if you have to do the same thing. So let's go ahead and get started. All right, welcome back. My name is Jeff Batt, and if you haven't checked out my website already, go ahead and check out my website. Here you can learn about all things learning development, and you can check out all previous blog posts, tips and tricks on Articulate Storyline, Adobe Captivate, how to do AR, as well as just tips and tricks for production. All of the different blog posts that I've made in the last 2 years are here. You can also download templates in Articulate Storyline and XAPI. And if you're new to any of these tools, you can check out full courses, everything from A to Z on Articulate Storyline 360, Adobe Captivate, XAPI Fundamentals, Camtasia, Articulate Rise, Custom SCORM, and HTML5 video. Now, like I mentioned before, I have done a lot of narration, mostly for like Pluralsight or Udemy or for different courses as well. There's a couple different things to keep in mind as I've created scripts, and a couple different tips and tricks that I've learned throughout the years that I wanted to share with you. Every voiceover artist has their own, I mean, I wouldn't even consider myself a voiceover artist. I've just done a lot of narration stuff. Everyone has their own process. Everyone has their own prep, prepping and making sure they're ready to go with their voice. So I don't want to say that this is the best way, but this is just the ways that I have done or I have learned to help me in my voiceovers and my scripting as well. So I just wanted to make sure that that's clear, because I know there are some people that are like, no, you shouldn't do this. No, you shouldn't do that. I don't think it's that black and white. I think it's, there's ways that work for people. There's ways that don't work for people. So it just depends on what works for you. So keep that in mind. So I'm going to go ahead and pull up my slides here. And in the scripting and prep, there's a couple things to keep in mind. This is the first question that I get a lot. Do you script? Should you script or should you not script? For my videos, for my blog posts, I don't script. I actually just have some bullet points. I think of a topic and I write down a couple of bullet points that I want to cover, and then I go from there. I've just done so many in the past 2 years. I've done so many of these blog posts that it's just easier for me not to script. I'll just be honest, I am not a writer. I am not, I am more a developer than anything else, but I am not a writer. It's hard for me to sit down and write out exactly what I'm going to say. And one of the other reasons why I don't script a lot is because a lot of the times with my scripting, it will sound robotic, unless I script it in a certain way, which I'll talk to you about in a second here. But that's one of the reasons why I don't script, especially with on-camera videos, is because I want to make them sound more fluid and more energized as well. But that's up to you. So if scripting works for you, great. If you feel more comfortable with scripting, great. Use scripting, and hopefully these tips and tricks for the times that I have scripted for like Pluralsight and Udemy and other things like that, these tips and tricks have helped me out with scripting. So we're going to talk about scripting or unscripting. We're going to talk about scripting with markup, and we're going to talk about list, some of the other ways that I've already mentioned, and some of the tips and tricks for that. So first of all, let's talk about unscripted. One of the key things for unscripted is knowledge. If you know the tool, if you know whatever you're going to be talking about, then it comes a whole lot easier. And so that's one of the reasons why I could go into Articulate Storyline and show you how to create a tabs interaction and just add a few bullet points, but not have to script out everything, because I've taught it so much and I've talked about it so much that it just flows a lot better. The tip is for you is to learn your content. If you're not going to script, make sure you know your content. You've practiced just giving the session or presenting the knowledge to somebody or something like that, or just pull up your iPhone and record it. This helps you practice, and this helps you gain that knowledge, especially sharing the knowledge and sharing what others need to know about it. And it really comes with practice. It comes with you just getting it out and doing it and presenting it several different times. Post YouTube videos helps you practice what you're talking about as well. So this is an example, and I'm going to pull this up real quick, of a not marked up script. And so this one, I believe it is a trailer for my Pluralsight course. And so they have very specific things on Pluralsight that they want you to talk about and to kind of reach here. This is what I started out with, my script here. Now, if I'm going in and I'm reading this, there's a couple things that don't really speak to me right here, and it makes it a little bit harder for me to read. Possibly with just my reading disability, it just makes it harder for it to sound natural here. I'm going to talk a little bit about scripting. So even if I wasn't to mark it up or anything like that, the first recommendation that I would do is to take it line by line. So this means coming into my script here and going down and separating out each line, each thought here, to make sure that it's separated and it's clear. So now I can go in, and if I'm not on camera, I could go in and just practice this a couple times. Hi everyone, my name is Jeff Batt, and welcome to my course on JavaScript arrays and collections. Practice that a few times, and once you practice it, then you can hit record, and then you could just say that line. Now you can cut out, in post edit, you can cut out spaces between these lines. So even though you're pausing and going to the next line, you can cut out that space so it sounds natural. That's one of the benefits of recording, is you can cut out all your mistakes. And by scripting though, I do find that I tend not to say and so that is a benefit of scripting, and it is more concise and more clear. So I'm not saying don't script. There are some clear benefits to scripting, and these are some of the tips and tricks that I've learned. When I cut it out line by line, it's easy for me to focus on one line at a time, practice it a couple times, hit record and such. The other thing that you can do is you can mark up your script. Now, there are a couple different ways to mark up your scripts, and you can see over on the right hand side, this allows me to visually actually get used to a couple of different things. So I'm going to pull up that same script, and you'll notice here, hi everyone, my name is Jeff Batt, and welcome. You'll notice a couple different tips and tricks here, which will cover what all of these means. The different color, the italicized in certain areas, the orange in certain areas as well, the pauses, the 2, the 3, and so forth. I'm going to cover all of that, especially the OST as well. What does all of this mean? If you're new to reading the narration, even having all of these kind of markups may take a little getting used to. But once you've done a few of them, by seeing those markups visually, it triggers how you need to read certain areas. Let's go ahead and go into what some of those markups mean. So the first thing is color. When you have different colors that emphasize different areas, you can talk about those colors in certain ways. And the first one is names. What I do is usually go mark anybody's name in blue, or any name of like a software in blue, or any name of, like, for example, if I was teaching about JavaScript, I would talk about JavaScript. I would mark that in blue as well. The next thing is questions, because I like to make sure that I have the inflections of questions when I'm going into the question, because sometimes I'll read it, maybe it's just me, but sometimes I'll read it not as a question and realize at the end of the question that it was a question. So I like to mark those out as purple, so when I first start reading the sentence, it will be clearly a question. Now, if I come back into here, I'm going to scroll up, and you'll notice right here, what I do, and possibly this could come from me learning Spanish as well, is I add a upside down question mark at the beginning, and then I have it as purple. You don't have to do that, but that's at the very beginning, lets me know that it's a question, so I can make sure that I do the inflections correctly, or even pause for a second before I do the question. So that is one way that I mark up, is I do the blue for names and very important things, and then I do the purple for questions. And then I do red for screen movements. If I know there's going to be a specific type of screen movement, especially if I'm doing narration separate from the actual screen recording, I will mark the movements in red. And that way I know that the camera, as I'm talking about it, I know that the camera is, or the screen recording is moving. So that's one other helpful thing. I'm not sure if I have any red here. It doesn't look like I have any red there. So this one is just a trailer that they're going to do the animations afterwards, so I didn't need to actually mark up the red. But I do a lot of software tutorials, so if I know that I'm going to go to a certain area in my software, then I'll mark that as red as well. Green is direction to me. This is something that I do not say, but it is something that I want to just hint at or just let myself know about something again as I'm recording it. So if I come into here, most of that is done by pauses. So when I talk, sometimes I talk fast. I know I've gotten that feedback a lot. They're like, he was going way too fast. And that's maybe when I just get excited about things, I just kind of go and I just blend into different sentences. So when I'm doing a narration, it's also helpful for me to just pause, chillax a little bit, and then go on to the next sentence there. So right here, hi everyone, my name is Jeff Batt and welcome to my course, JavaScript and Arrays and Collections. Pause. I am the founder and head trainer at Learning Dojo. Pause for a second. Again, you can cut out those pauses, post-edit to make them sound more natural, but it lets me know that I need to just pay attention to this. Not only that, but there's also the 1, the 2, and the 3. Those are bullet points that are going to show up. So those are different parts that I don't need to say, but I need to pause and just kind of wait for that bullet point to come up there. Now this one right here is OST. Now I'm going to talk about what OST means, but this is text that is going to be on the screen, but I'm not specifically going to say what the text is because I don't need to read whatever text is on the screen. I know sometimes we tend to read everything and the text is on the screen, so you don't necessarily need to read it. And so right here, making arrays more functional and some other advanced methods. I don't need to say advanced arrays, they kind of get the idea there. So that is another thing. Those are directions to me. This is something that I need to be aware of what's going to be on the screen, but I'm not going to say. Now again, after I've done this a few times, seeing that green just automatically triggers that I don't say it, but I can pause for a second and I can take a look at those directions there. All right, so let's go on to the next thing. So the next one is orange. Now, an orange is to look into the future. We're going to be talking about something in the future. We're going to be talking, or something that to get the person excited. So that usually helps me reflect a little bit more about excitement. So this is something that you can take advantage of, or something like that. So I'm going to go back into here into the script. So this one right here, we will be covering what you need to know about this course. That lets me know that I need to get excited at that part. So we're going to be covering about everything you need to know about this course. And so it just helps me kind of emphasize that a little bit more. And right here, looking into the future, by the end of this course. So that's something, again, that I can emphasize a little bit differently. So that's it for the colors and how I mark up my script there. A couple other things that I do visually is I will also bold important words. So if I come in here, you'll notice things like maps. Those are important words. Sets, new data collections, arrays, and so forth. So I am calling out those words so I can emphasize them as I start to read them. So in this case, making arrays more functional for some advanced methods. So I'm just pausing for a second a little bit more, or I'm emphasizing the word arrays a little bit more as well. Another thing you can do that kind of works with that is bold and resize. So you notice as I go through my script here, there's a couple words that are really, they're large compared to the other ones, because I really want to emphasize those words. In this case, hi everyone, my name is Jeff Batt and welcome to this course on JavaScript arrays and collections. So that helps me emphasize really arrays, and it calls out visually on the script when I'm reading the script that I need to emphasize welcome. So the more I want to emphasize it, the more I'll actually resize it as well. So that's another tip, and you can see that as I go through here. We have some exciting new ways. Maybe you don't want to do it that much. We have some exciting new ways to work with arrays and data collection. Arrays and data collection are not exciting, but this is if you're new or if you're familiar with JavaScript, somebody may not be familiar with how to do arrays and collections. So that's why I want to emphasize exciting there. So that is another way to visually kind of show it. And then also typewriter text, directions or screen movements. This kind of relates with the pause. Is I will put that inside of typewriter text here. Right here, American typewriter is the text, or you could do Lucid Sans typewriter, or I'll find any typewriter text. So it's like even the text is visually different than the rest of the text on the screen. And that's more for directions and screen movements. So even in the red. So like I mentioned this before, the upside down question marks, It lets me know at the very beginning of the sentence that it's a question, so I can make sure that I emphasize the question right at the beginning as well. Highlighter, head snappers. There is something called head snappers. Simon Allardyce, who is an author, he's been around for a long time. Lynda.com, I think he's an author at Pluralsight as well, has a lot of popular coding courses. He mentioned something about head snappers that I really like, so I wanted to make sure that I gave him credit for that. But head snappers is when you call the learner back to the screen. So as you're talking about a certain item on the screen, you want to draw their attention back to you, because sometimes somebody will have the tutorial off to the side, and you would want to say, you know what, something that will call them back, like, did you know, or something that's really important, or something that you're going to emphasize. That is a head snapper that brings them back. I'm not sure if I have any head snappers in this one. Something like here, ECMAScript was introduced to me, or was introduced, so I can even highlight something like that. So that way it triggers my reading of it as a head snapper, where I want to draw and I want to emphasize coming back to the video and paying attention to the video. If you have a chance to watch any of Simon Allardyce's videos, he does this really well. So he's a great example of that, of calling it back, bringing it back, and saying even questions like this, where you call back to yourself and even anticipate different questions, like, now you may be thinking, or you may be questioning, or you may have a question in your mind, things like that, that brings it back and relates it back to the learner, because the learner may be thinking that and you're kind of anticipating what they're thinking, and it brings them back. It's a head snapper. It takes them, looking somewhere else and bringing it back to the screen and getting their attention back. So there are also text acronyms. So you saw this on the screen. OST stands for on-screen text that is not said. So in this case, we have some right here: on-screen text, advanced arrays. This is not going to be said, but it's just a quick way to know that that is on-screen text. OSM, on-screen movements. So if you want to know exactly what's going to happen on the screen, you can put those inside of brackets, and you can trigger the on-screen, or you can just show the on-screen movements so I know exactly what's going to happen on the screen there. That, even if I'm recording the screen at the same time, I could even then move my screen or my mouse at that same time as I'm talking about it, if you wanted to get used to it that way as well. Like I mentioned before, a lot of this just comes down to practice. Practicing it, pulling out your iPhone and just recording your screen, recording yourself as you read the narration, and then, over time it gets a lot easier. I've been doing the on-screen videos for over 2 years, but I've been doing these different Pluralsight and Udemy courses for over 10 years. So it's been a long time, and so I've picked up a lot of things, but I still have a lot of things to learn myself as well. So it's kind of a progression. It's something that you could always improve in a certain area. Maybe it's not all about the microphone, but maybe there's a better microphone that helps you, or just a better way to prep or breathe or other things like that. Now, one last thing I want to talk about is creating lists or steps. This is what I do most commonly. What I do is, if I come into my Trello, when I'm prepping for a video, for example, if I click on that Trello board, these are different things that I want to call out. Now, this was last week's video, which is interactive video in Storyline. So there were a few things that I just create little bullet point: cue triggers, hotspots, show layers, jumping back to certain points. Those are certain things that I wanted to cover in the video. So as I'm recording the video, I'll have something off to the side. For this video, I don't, but I'll have something off to the side that lets me know these different bullet points. And so if I'm recording something and I'm not scripting, and I forgot to cover bullet point 2, well, I can bring it back to bullet point 2, and I can make sure that I cover that as well. So that is my most common method, but the scripting and other things have been stuff that I've used all the time as well. So hopefully this has been helpful for you to, at least if you're thinking about scripting, if you have some scripting for Storyline or Adobe Captivate or something like that, and you wanted to create the script and mark it up this way, Hopefully this has been helpful for you and you're able to at least get 1 or 2 things out of this as well. If you like my video and you wanted to check out more, head on over to my website at learningdojo.ninja. You can go over to my blog posts and see all previous blog posts. You can also download different templates, development templates on Articulate Storyline 360, XAPI, and video, and you can check out full courses, everything from A to Z on Articulate Storyline 360, Adobe Captivate, XAPI Fundamentals, Camtasia, Articulate Rise, Custom SCORM, and HTML5 video. And if you like this video, go ahead and go to my YouTube channel. Make sure you click on that like button and subscribe to my channel as well, and hit the bell notification so you get notified of all future videos as they come out. That really helps my channel, allows me to keep making these videos, these free videos for you, these tips and tricks as well. And comment down below what works for you, what other things that are not in this video that you've done when you've had to do narration. Comment down below at my YouTube video. And that's it. That's all I have for today. So I'll see you next time, everyone.